You're about to discover why most people who try to learn something new are destined to fail before they even start. And it's not because they lack talent. It's not because they don't work hard enough. It's because they've been lied to about how learning actually works. Right now, there are people half your age mastering skills in months that you've been struggling with for years. Programming, languages, martial arts, music, business. They're not smarter than you. They're not more talented. They know something you don't. A system so powerful that it turns complete beginners into masters faster than should be possible. A system that was kept secret in feudal Japan for centuries. A system that, when you understand it, will make you dangerous. Because once you know this, you can steal any skill you want. But here's the part that will hurt. To use this system, you'll have to kill your ego first. You'll have to admit something that will make you uncomfortable. You'll have to accept that everything you thought you knew about learning was wrong. Before I show you this system, subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments what skill you're going to steal using this method. Guitar, coding, fighting, business? Comment below. I read every single one. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Wouldn't Quit. Feudal Japan. 1615. A boy named Kenji had a problem. Not the kind of problem you solve with effort, the kind that destroys you if you don't. His father had been a samurai, a respected warrior who served a powerful daimyo, but his father was dead now, killed in battle when Kenji was only 12. And without a father, without lineage, without connections, Kenji was nothing. Just another peasant boy in a world that didn't care if he lived or died. But Kenji had inherited one thing from his father: obsession. He wanted to become a samurai so badly that it consumed him. Every waking thought, every dream. While other boys his age accepted their fate, Kenji couldn't. He would sneak away from the rice fields and watch the samurai train, the way they moved, the precision, the deadly grace. He wanted that power more than he wanted air. At 15, he stole a wooden practice sword from a discarded pile behind the training grounds. And he began training himself every morning before sunrise, every night after the fields. He would practice strikes against a tree, thrusts, blocks, footwork, prints, hours, every single day. 6 months passed. He got worse. Not better, worse. His movements felt clumsy. His form was wrong. His body wouldn't listen. The more he trained, the more frustrated he became. So he tried a different approach. He found old scrolls in the village, texts about strategy, philosophy, the way of the warrior. He memorized them, every word. He learned the names of famous techniques, the principles of Bushido, the tactics of legendary battles. He had knowledge, so much knowledge. But when he picked up the sword, it meant nothing. Another 6 months passed, a full year of training, and Kenji was still just a peasant boy swinging a stick in the dark, until the day everything changed. Chapter 2. The Man Who Saw Through Him. It was late afternoon. Kenji was practicing near the river, repeating a downward strike he'd seen a samurai perform. Stop! The voice came from behind him. Kenji turned. An old man stood there, gray hair, scars across his face, 2 swords at his waist, and a real samurai. That strike will get you killed, the old man said. Kenji felt shame burn through him. I'm teaching myself, sir. I have no master. The samurai walked closer. How long have you been teaching yourself? 1 year. And are you better than when you started? Silence. The truth was obvious. The samurai took the wooden sword from Kenji's hands. You know what you've been doing for the past year? Kenji didn't answer. You've been practicing failure. Every wrong repetition carved a deeper groove into your muscles. You didn't train yourself. You trained yourself to be bad. The words cut deeper than any blade. Sir, Kenji's voice cracked. How do I learn the right way? The samurai studied him for a long moment. You've read the scrolls, haven't you? You know the philosophy. You know the names of techniques. You floss. Yes, sir. That's your problem. You tried to build a house, starting with the roof. You studied philosophy before you learned to stand properly. You tried to innovate before you could imitate. You skipped the only thing that matters. What's that? The path. The samurai's eyes locked onto Kenji's. There is a path to mastery. 3 stages. You must walk each one in order. You cannot skip, you cannot rush. If you try, you will waste your entire life being mediocre at everything you touch. Please, Kenji said, teach me this path. The samurai was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Tomorrow at dawn. And understand this, boy. The first stage will kill the person you think you are. Chapter 3. Shu. The Death of Self. Dawn came. Kenji was waiting when the samurai appeared. What's your name, boy? Kenji, sir. I am Takeda, and today we begin Shu. Takeda drew a circle in the dirt with his foot. Shu means to obey, to protect, to hold the form. In this stage, you do not think, you do not question, you do not add your own creativity. You become a perfect copy. Nothing more. Nothing less. Takeda assumed a stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, hips low, shoulders relaxed. Stand exactly as I stand. Kenji imitated. Takeda adjusted Kenji's left foot, 2 centimeters to the right. He shifted Kenji's hip, 1 degree. He lowered Kenji's shoulder, a fraction. Now breathe. 4 seconds in through your nose. Hold for 2. 6 seconds out through your mouth. They stood like that for 15 minutes. Just breathing. Kenji's legs burned. His mind screamed that this was pointless. Master, he finally said, when will we practice real techniques? Takeda's eyes cut to him like a knife. You think posture is boring? You think breathing is a waste of time? That's exactly why you failed for a year. Every advanced technique you'll ever learn depends on this posture. And this breathing. These fundamentals you think are beneath you. Kenji swallowed his words. Shu is not exciting, Takeda continued. Shu is humiliating, because it forces you to admit you know nothing. It forces you to copy, like a child. No creativity, no personality, just pure, mindless repetition. But master, if you question me one more time, I will leave, and you will continue being worthless. Is that what you want? No, sir. Then obey. Weeks passed. Posture, breathing, weight distribution. No sword techniques, no combat, just fundamentals. Kenji's mind rebelled every single day. This is too slow. I should be learning to fight. This is a waste. But something was happening beneath the surface. Something he couldn't see but could feel. His posture that had been painful now felt natural. His breathing that had been forced now happened on its own. One morning, 3 months into Shu, Takeda demonstrated a basic vertical cut. 1,000 times, he said. Exactly as I showed you. Not faster, not with more power. Identical. Kenji spent the entire week on that single cut. 1,000 repetitions per day. On the 5th day, something extraordinary happened. He was on repetition 600 when his body executed the cut perfectly. Without thought, without effort. The sword moved on its own. Did you feel it? Takeda asked from across the clearing. Kenji nodded, speechless. That is Shu. When the technique sinks so deep into your nervous system that your conscious mind is no longer involved. But most people never reach this point. They think repetition is for the stupid. They think they're too special to practice basics 1,000 times. A neuroscientist at the University of Tokyo studied motor learning for 20 years. His research revealed something shocking. When you repeat a movement 300 to 500 times correctly, neurons in the cerebellum begin forming an automatic pattern. After 1,000 correct repetitions, the pattern becomes unconscious. The skill literally migrates from your thinking brain to your automatic brain. But if you change the movement before 300 repetitions, the pattern never solidifies. You remain stuck in conscious mode forever. Slow, clumsy, error-prone. Chapter 4. The Trap That Kills Mastery. 6 months of Shu passed. Kenji now possessed 12 basic techniques so deeply ingrained that he could execute them while half asleep. Literally. One night, Takeda woke him suddenly and commanded, "Horizontal cut." Kenji's body performed it flawlessly before his mind even registered what was happening. But Kenji started noticing something strange. He observed other warriors, men who had trained for years, men who knew hundreds of techniques. They could name every kata, recite every philosophy, identify every master from history. But when they fought, something was missing. They knew the movements, but the movements didn't live inside them. "Master," Kenji asked one morning, "why do some warriors know 300 techniques but fight worse than me with only 12? Takeda smiled for the first time in months. Finally, the right question. He pointed at a group of practitioners training nearby. Those warriors live in eternal student hell. They collect techniques like children collect toys. They learn something new before mastering the last thing. They study 1,000 strategies but never internalize one. They confuse information with transformation. But they know so much. Knowledge is having a map. Mastery is having walked the path so many times you no longer need the map. They have maps. You have territory." Takeda walked to a tree and placed his hand on it. "Shu gave you foundations. You obeyed without question. You didn't innovate. You just repeated until the techniques became part of your DNA. And now," he paused, "now you're ready to break everything I taught you." Kenji's eyes widened. "Break it?" "Yes. That's the second stage. Ha, where you destroy the limits." Chapter 5. Ha, the dangerous liberation. "In Shu, you became my perfect copy," Takeda explained. "You do what I do, exactly how I do it. That gave you the foundation. But if you stop there, you'll never become a true warrior. You'll just be my shadow." Takeda drew a larger circle around the first one in the dirt. "Shu is this inner circle, the boundaries I placed on you. Ha is where you break those boundaries. But listen carefully. Most people confuse Ha with rebellion. They break the rules not because they've mastered them, but because they're too lazy to master them. How do I know the difference? Ha is not rejecting what you learned. It's understanding the why behind each technique so deeply that you can begin to adapt it, combine it, transform it. But that only works if Shu was complete. If Shu was shallow, Ha will make you mediocre." That afternoon, Takeda brought another instructor to the clearing. A warrior from a completely different school, different stance, different philosophy, different techniques. "For the next year," Takeda said, "you will train with both of us. You will learn techniques that contradict everything I taught you." His style opposes mine in almost every way. Kenji was confused. "But won't that ruin what you taught me?" "If Shu wasn't deep, yes, you'll become a confused mess with no identity. But Shu was deep, so you'll do something extraordinary. You'll begin to see the universal principles beneath all styles." And so began Ha. Mornings with Takeda, afternoons with the second master. The styles were polar opposites. Takeda taught low stances, patience, economy of movement. The second master taught high stances, aggression, explosive power. Everything contradicted. For the first 3 months, Kenji's mind short-circuited trying to switch between them. But then, something shifted. He began to realize that underneath the surface differences, both masters were teaching the same thing. How to move energy efficiently through the body. How to read an opponent's intention. How to be fully present in the moment. The techniques were different. The principles were identical. "You're beginning to see," Takeda said when he noticed the change in Kenji's eyes. Shu taught you the forms. Ha is teaching you the principles. When you understand principles, forms become tools instead of prisons. 1 year into Ha, Kenji's fighting style had completely transformed. He was no longer a copy of either master. He had started combining techniques in ways neither of them taught. During a sparring session, he blocked using Takeda's low stance, but countered with the second master's explosive strike. The movement was so seamless, so natural, he didn't even realize he'd created something new until he saw both masters staring at him. "What was that?" the second master asked. I don't know. It just felt right." The two masters exchanged a glance. "Ha is complete," Takeda declared. "You're no longer blindly obeying, but you're not randomly breaking rules either. You're adapting with wisdom. You understand why." Then Takeda said something Kenji didn't expect. And this is where 99% of practitioners stop. They reach Ha and think they've arrived. They can adapt techniques, combine styles, create variations. They're proud of themselves, but Ha is still a cage. You're still limited to techniques you've learned, even if you can mix them creatively. You've become a skilled craftsman, but not a master. There is a third stage, the final stage, and only 1 in 1,000 ever reaches it, because it requires something most people refuse to do. What's that? Forget everything. Chapter 6. Ri, the Invisible Peak. Ri is the stage where you stop using techniques, Takeda explained. The techniques use you. Or, more accurately, there are no techniques anymore, only pure response. Kenji frowned. "How can I fight without techniques?" "Let me tell you a story. When I was young like you, I spent 40 years studying the sword. I learned 400 techniques. I mastered 15 different schools. I became famous as one of the deadliest swordsmen in the province. Then one day, an old master came to challenge me. He must have been 80 years old, could barely walk without a cane. I accepted out of politeness, thinking it would be quick." Takeda's face darkened with the memory. "He defeated me in 2 moves, and you know what confused me most? He didn't use any recognizable technique. It wasn't style A, or B, or C. It was nothing and everything, like water, formless but perfectly shaped to the moment. Afterward, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, 'Young man, you fight well. You know many techniques, but you are still fighting. I don't fight anymore. I just respond. When you attack, my body already knows the answer before my mind processes the question. There is no decision, no technique, just natural movement.'" "How do I reach that?" Kenji asked. "Time, practice, and most importantly, you must stop trying." The next 5 years were the most frustrating of Kenji's life. Takeda stopped teaching him anything new. He just made Kenji fight. Different opponents, different styles, different situations, every single day. At first, Kenji was still thinking during fights. "Now I'll use Takeda's block. Now I'll combine it with the second master's counter." His mind constantly categorized, decided, chose. But slowly, over years, something dissolved. The labels on techniques began disappearing. He stopped thinking, "Now I do technique X," and started just doing. One day, during an intense fight against 4 opponents simultaneously, something broke open. Kenji didn't remember making a single decision during that fight. His body simply flowed. Block, strike, spin, evade, all without conscious thought. Like watching someone else fight using his body. When it ended, all 4 opponents were on the ground. Kenji was breathing calmly, effortlessly. He couldn't recall any specific techniques he'd used. Takeda was watching from the edge of the clearing, a rare smile on his scarred face. "You finally stopped fighting, but I just fought 4 people. "No," your body responded. There was no you in there making decisions. Just pure reaction to reality. This is Ri. you've transcended technique. It's now so deeply embedded in you that you don't even know it's there. A researcher at Kyoto University studied embodied cognition for 23 years. His findings were remarkable. When experts reach the highest level of mastery, something fascinating happens in the brain. Activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for conscious decision-making, dramatically decreases during performance. Older, deeper brain structures take over. The expert is no longer doing the skill. The skill is expressing itself through the expert. Neurologically, the person and the skill become one entity. Chapter 7. The Man with No Techniques. Years later, Kenji was no longer the desperate peasant boy. He had become a master. Young warriors came from distant villages asking to become his students. They always asked the same question. "Master, how many techniques do you know?" Kenji always gave the same answer. "None." And all of them. This confused them. They wanted numbers, lists, specifics. They wanted to know exactly what they'd learn. But Kenji had understood something that can only be understood after walking the complete path of Shuhari. Techniques are fingers pointing at the moon. Most people stare at the fingers and never see the moon. One day, an arrogant young warrior challenged him. "Master, with respect, my previous instructor knows 600 techniques. How can you be better knowing none?" Kenji picked up a practice sword. "Attack me with any of those 600. The young warrior chose his best technique, a complex combination he'd practiced for years. Kenji barely seemed to move. A slight shift of weight, a minimal angle change. The young warrior was on the ground, weaponless, unable to understand how. "You used a technique on me just now," Kenji explained, helping him up. "A specific technique with a name that you've drilled thousands of times. It's good. It works in most situations. But I didn't use a technique on you. My body simply responded to your movement in the only way that specific moment required. It wasn't technique A, B, or C. It was the perfect answer to a unique moment that never existed before and will never exist again." That's the difference between knowing 600 techniques and having zero. You're limited to 600 options. I have infinite options because I'm not choosing from memorized patterns. I'm creating the right response in real time. Chapter 8. The Universal Code. Kenji's story isn't just about swords. It's about everything you want to master. You want to learn guitar? Shuhari is the path. Shu. You copy songs, note for note, exactly as recorded. No improvisation, no personal flair, just imitation, until the patterns sink into your fingers without thought. Ha! You start combining elements from different songs, understanding music theory, seeing the principles behind the techniques. You pick up the guitar and music flows. You're not playing music anymore. You've become music. You want to master programming? Shuhari. Shu. Copy code from expert developers line by line. Follow established patterns without question. Build unshakable foundations. Ha. Begin understanding the why behind each pattern. Combine different approaches. Adapt solutions. A. Rai. You don't write code consciously anymore. You see a problem, and the solution manifests through your fingers. The language disappears. Only pure logic remains. You want to build a business? Shuhari. Shu. Study and replicate business models that work. Don't reinvent the wheel. Learn from those who already succeeded. Ha! Adapt these models to your specific niche. See universal business principles that transcend industries. Rai. You stop following models. You intuitively know what will work. Like, your nervous system can read market conditions the way a master reads an opponent. The path is always the same. Shuhari isn't just an ancient Japanese philosophy. It's the architecture of how deep learning happens in any domain. But there's something nobody tells you about Shuhari. The real reason most people never achieve mastery in anything. Chapter 9. Why your generation will never master anything. The brutal truth is this. Most people today will never experience true mastery in anything because they refuse to enter Shu. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I don't like following rules. I prefer to find my own way. I'm more creative when I do things my way." Sounds good, right? Sounds like independence, original thinking, creativity. It's a lie. It's your ego protecting you from uncomfortable truth. You don't want to find your own path. You want to avoid the hard, humiliating work of mastering someone else's path first. Kenji could have said the same thing. "Master, why do I need to copy you exactly? Why can't I develop my own style from the beginning? I'm a unique individual." If he'd done that, he'd have remained a peasant. Just another person who thought he was too special to learn the right way. The modern generation has been sold a toxic lie that you should skip fundamentals and go straight to self-expression. That following a master is for the uncreative. That copying is for the weak. And the result? An entire generation of people who know a little about everything and nothing about anything. People who start 50 hobbies and master none. People who say, "I tried guitar, but it wasn't for me." When the truth is, they didn't have the patience to go through Shu. Let me be brutally honest. No stories, no philosophy, just raw truth. The reason you haven't mastered that skill you claim you want to master isn't lack of talent. It's not lack of time. It's not lack of resources. It's because you're trying to start at Ha or Ri without doing Shu. You want the results of mastery without paying the price of obsessive repetition. You want to play like a virtuoso but don't want to spend 6 months on scales. You want to code like a professional but don't want to spend a year copying better programmers. You want an 8-figure business but don't want to spend 2 years studying proven models. You want to skip Shu because it's boring, because it's humiliating to admit you know nothing and must copy someone exactly. Because our culture sold you the lie that you're special and unique and don't need to follow the path every master before you followed. And as long as you believe this lie, you will remain mediocre at everything you touch. The truth that burns. There is no shortcut. Never has been. Never will be. Zen monks knew this 800 years ago. Samurai knew this 400 years ago. Every true master in any domain knows this. There is only one path. Shuhari. Chapter 10. What you must do now. Not tomorrow. Not Monday. Now. First, choose one skill. Not 3. Not 5. 1. The skill that if you mastered it in the next 3 years would completely transform your life. Second, find someone who has already mastered this skill. They don't have to be the best in the world. They need to be 10 times better than you. Find that person. If you can't find someone in person, find an expert online. But choose only one to follow. Third, enter Shu with complete humility. You will copy this person with obsessive precision. No adaptations. No my way. No creativity. Just perfect imitation. Will it be boring? Yes. Will it feel like you lost your identity? Yes. Will people judge you and say, "You're being robotic"? Yes. Good. That means you're doing it right. Fourth, once Shu is complete, and you'll know when it's complete, because the techniques will flow without thought, then you enter Ha. Study other approaches. Combine techniques. Adapt. Create variations. Question the why. Fifth, continue for years, not months, years. This isn't a 6-month program. It's a developmental journey that can take much longer. Keep practicing, experimenting, integrating. And sixth, one day, without realizing it, you'll be in Ri. You'll execute your skill without thinking. You'll create solutions you've never seen before. You'll transcend technique. And on that day, you'll understand something profound. The journey never ends. You'll return to the basics, but with completely new eyes. A researcher at Oxford University studied expertise development for 26 years. She analyzed 500 masters across different domains: music, sports, programming, martial arts, business. The finding was unanimous. Every world-class expert followed the same three-stage pattern. First, a phase of rigorous imitation lasting 1 to 3 years. Second, a phase of experimentation and combination lasting 3 to 7 years. Third, a phase of intuition and innovation marking true mastery. She found not a single exception. No master skipped the first stage, even those called natural prodigies. The difference was only the speed they moved through each stage, never the sequence. Chapter 11. Kenji's Final Teaching. Kenji lived to be 91. He trained hundreds of students during his lifetime. On his last day, surrounded by his most advanced disciples, one of them asked, "Master, what was your greatest regret on this journey?" Kenji thought for a long moment. Then he spoke. "My only regret is not starting Shu sooner. I wasted an entire year trying to teach myself, thinking I was smart enough to find a better way. If I had started with a master from day one, I would have gained an extra year of mastery, and 1 extra year as a master is worth more than gold." He looked each student in the eye. "All of you, don't make my mistake. If you want to master something, find someone who already mastered it. Copy that person, without shame, without ego, without rushing to add your personal touch. Mastery isn't about being original from day one. It's about becoming so deeply skilled that originality becomes inevitable." These were his last words about the path. 3 days later, he died peacefully, knowing he had passed on the most important teaching he ever received. The path doesn't end. It just transforms. Chapter 12. The Mirror. Here's something very few people realize. You think Shuhari is about learning skills. It's not. Shuhari is about who you become in the process. The person you are today, impatient, jumping from thing to thing, wanting results without process, that person will never experience true mastery. But there's another version of you. A version that has the patience to copy perfectly. That has the humility to admit it knows nothing. That has the discipline to practice the same thing 1,000 times. That has the wisdom to understand the long road is the fast road. This version of you already exists, waiting for you to stop looking for shortcuts, waiting for you to accept the only path that works. Shuhari isn't just an ancient Japanese learning method. It's a mirror. And what you see when you look into that mirror tells you everything about who you'll be in 5 years. Do you see someone willing to start as a complete beginner, without ego, without rushing? Or do you see someone still looking for the hack, the shortcut, the way to avoid the work? Because only one of these people will truly master something, and you know which one. The question isn't, does the Shuhari system work? The question is, are you willing to pay the price that mastery demands? Kenji was just a peasant boy. No special talent, no noble lineage, no advantages. The only thing he had was willingness to obey completely before questioning, to imitate perfectly before innovating, to master the basics before seeking the advanced. And this transformed him from nobody into a master whose name was remembered for centuries. You have the same choice. The same path is open to you. Do you want to spend the next 5 years trying to find a better way that doesn't exist? 5 years from now, still exactly where you are today, knowing a little about many things and nothing about anything? Or do you want to pay the price of mastery and become extraordinary at whatever you set your mind to? Mastery is waiting, but it won't find you. You have to walk to it, step by step, repetition by repetition. Shu, then Ha, then Ri. The path is ancient. The path is tested. The path works. If this video gave you something valuable, subscribe now, hit the bell, and tell me in the comments, what skill will you steal using Shuhari? Write it down below. If you made it this far, thank you. You're one of the few actually willing to learn. That already separates you from 99% of people. Now go. Enter Shu. Years from now, you'll look back and won't believe you were the same person. Until the next video. And good luck on your transformation.